when you have that creative time and there's that one meeting in the middle of it, it literally ruins the whole thing. Like it throws you off and people are like, oh, I can multitask. I'm like, I thought I could. No, you can't. You cannot, right? And I remember a guy, I forget who it was. It was Dan Martell actually. I saw one of his YouTube videos. He said, say the alphabet, right? And then, okay, cool, A, B, C, D. Now count to 27. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now do A1, B2, C3, and see if you can do it at the same rate. You're multitasking, and it's just a demonstration of the fact that you really can't, because it takes time to, be undistracted, basically.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Building a Better Business. Today, our guest is Derek Peterson, the man, the myth, the legend, founder and CEO of Adapt Agency. If you haven't heard of Adapt Agency, they are the preeminent marketing and branding force in real estate syndication, personal branding, and health industries. Derek, welcome to the show, man.
Brother Jake, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to just get a few minutes with you. So
I know, right?
We have to do it via podcast, so I'm excited to jab with you for a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Derek and I were joking offline. Not only does he have a better office right now, as you can see in general, but he's doing it from an Airbnb in Portugal. So showing me up on every front. But how is Portugal going? I know we'll get into it a little bit about why you're in Portugal, but tell me, how is Portugal and how is traveling with your wife been?
That's been amazing. We have been in the country of Portugal now for 6 weeks, and we'll be here for a total of 3 months.
My gosh.
So yeah, it's been amazing. It's the first leg of at least 3 years. It could be longer, could be forever.
Yeah.
Of full-time digital nomad travel and running the businesses from abroad. We chose Portugal as our first stop. We went to the Azores, Madeira, Porto, Nazaré, and we're now in Lisbon. In fact, right behind my computer screen, you're only seeing this, Jake, the furniture.
Thanks.
And this nice plant, and then two other nice plants. But what's in front of me, if I could flip my screen around, is I'm looking at the city of Lisbon, and it's great. I mean, it's been amazing. I could talk about Portugal for an hour. It's fantastic.
Well, I've shared with you before, but my wife and I have talked about traveling to Portugal for a couple of years now, and have thought about maybe even moving for a month or at some point in our life just to give it a try. But I'm really excited to just chat about why you're there, but also how you got there, how your businesses allowed you to live this lifestyle of you're now considering living abroad and running your businesses for the next 3+ years. And you kind of led into it a little bit that you own a number of businesses, whether it's in the health industries, travel industry, and now with this marketing agency and even real estate syndication. We'll talk about all of those things, but I really want to focus in on Adapt, at least to begin with. Can you kind of walk us through, how did Adapt start? What was the genesis of your business? Did it come from a place of need where you need to start something similar to serve your interests, or was it hey, I'm good at marketing and this is what I want to do?
Great question. And so I'll share the story, and I think it'll dovetail into where the space we're in our lives right now, just living fully nomadic now at this point. So I met my now wife back in 2017. And when I met her, lived in North Carolina, in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. I owned a medical distribution business at that point, right? Which was doing okay. I had a couple business partners, but I had been in healthcare for about 15 years. And I got into this stage of my life where I was doing things to make money, but I didn't actually acquire any joy or purpose from it, right? And you start to reach an age in your life, which I wish I reached this age sooner, where you're what am I doing, right?
Yeah.
Let me just focus and start doing things that I like. And the thing that I liked about what I was doing was the marketing aspect of my business. The actual healthcare sucked. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was just burnt out because of insurance and all these other things. And when I met my wife, we came to this realization early on that we both really had this passion for travel that we wanted to accelerate. So we decided in 2018 to become Instagram influencers. It was kind of a new thing for travel.
Yeah.
So we were I saw it and I was like, hey, let's do this. So I went and bought drones and cameras, and I was like, we're diving all in on this. and had a knackering for it. We grew an Instagram audience to like 20, 25,000. I think it's regressed down to like 15,000. The page is still there. We're still posting on it. And we collaborated with different tourism boards and hotels and experiences and really started to dive into this, hey, let's go travel and share it with other people type of thing. Well, that sort of evolved into, hey, I'd rather do this and I'd rather do marketing than doing this medical distribution space. So I had that life moment. We all have them, right? Where it's just like, you know what? Let's just cut bait, right? Let's rip the Band-Aids off and let's just change our lives, right?
Yeah.
So we decided, let's go ahead and start a marketing firm, which I knew nothing about, right? I knew how to market intuitively, but I just didn't know anything about running a business. And then a travel agency. Let's start so we can travel the world and do our marketing business from anywhere in the world. This is back in 2018. So we got our first client, and then our second client and our third client. We started to grow that business, but it was honestly, Jake, it was a side hustle to my medical distribution business. So I was side hustling it, and starting to make some good money there, and I was enjoying it. So my wife and I decided, you know what, let's do this honeymoon. We're going to go completely around the world for 2 months and circumvent the globe. So that was a crazy idea for us. And we're transitioning to this new business. Finances were a little bit tough because we were like starting something new. And we decided, let's just go for it. And so took a year of planning. But in 2019, we went on an around the world honeymoon with a marketing firm and a travel business that had basically no clients, right? Seemed kind of crazy.
Seems a little crazy.
Yep. And, we had a big house and a mortgage and, kids and like, all this responsibility. But it felt right. It felt like this is more of my life calling to create and to be a creator of, I like creating, and marketing and sales is just like the perfect place to do this. You know this, right?
Yeah.
So we come back, COVID hits, right? 2020, great for marketing businesses, digital marketing businesses, right? Because everyone had to digitize everything. So our business started to scale, in 2020 to 2021. And then at that point, Jake, I started to roll into doing a lot of these clients that were in a similar industry, and that was a real estate syndication and capital raising space. So after I did a few brands, people recognize it and they're like, oh, you do mine. And I kept putting my name at the bottom of every website that we would do, and other people would see it and come to us. And it was just a little idea I had I had, one developer. Now so many years later, we got a staff of 20, and we've got, we've built hundreds of brands in this space, but it started just by putting our name at the bottom of a website proudly built by Adapt, right? And I found myself surrounded by a lot of capital raisers, real estate syndicators, operators. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to get into this business. And lo and behold, I had an opportunity to partner with somebody and to start a real estate capital raising business. So we did it for a couple of years as a capital raiser, raised about 20 million. And then the business kind of fizzled with the partners because it sat like second, third position with them. And I had an opportunity to be partners with a new startup business to be an operator. So I transitioned from knowing nothing about capital raising to being a capital raiser to being an operator. And that just gave me more credibility in the space because I understood it more. I was doing the business of ground up development. I was raising capital. I was helping other businesses create brands that raise capital. And just sort of this perfect storm was created. But all that was leading towards, as that agency grew and as our business grew, so too did our affinity for travel, and our life with, exiting kids from the home, put us in a position where we could say, hey, you know what? Let's do what we originally intended to do back in 2018 when we started the marketing firm in the travel business. And let's take this show on the road. And we're building a business around that now with a different brand on a YouTube channel and all that stuff. But we took a year, which I can get into in a little bit, and took the show on the road. Got ready to scale the business, but then get our lives set up to be in a position to be able to actually go enjoy this and not work 12 hours a day like I was when we first started the businesses.
Okay, there's so much to unpack there. And I had a question lined up, but I want to back up a little bit because you said something about COVID, which I think is really interesting. You saw this, and I experienced it too in a previous life, that during COVID, digital marketing agencies saw growth. I mean, not all of them, but generally speaking, since everything had to go digital, they tend to see some growth. But that's not the case for certainly not every business, but even some marketing businesses did not run into that because they were starting to see marketing budgets disappear. It's like, this when things go wrong, if any budget goes away, it's usually going to be the marketing budget first. So like all those marketing like to haves are going to be shelved until grass is a little greener. How did you guys, I know you're a digital marketing agency, so that helped a little bit, but how did you guys overcome those objections of, hey guys, it's COVID, we're pulling back budgets for a little bit? How were you guys able to drive growth for your business in times of uncertainty?
I think it probably had to do with the industries that we were tethered to, right? So certain industries, I think, during those times struggled a bit, and they had to dial back their budgets to the point that you just made, where other industries like digital marketing and other industries actually started to thrive during those times. Like our travel business in that moment completely tanked, right? There was nothing we could do. It just burned to the ground. And but it was a combination, honestly, of two things. I think one being tethered to the appropriate industries, so seeking out industries that weren't struggling financially and could pay.
Health industries, for one.
Exactly, like the health industry, one that we were heavily leveraged in at the time. Even the real estate capital raising space was one that was still doing quite fine.
Really well.
Right? We saw real estate prices continue to rocket during COVID, and still, I'm not really sure and understanding why it's continued to accelerate the rate that it is. But that, and also by the fact that I was literally bolted to my chair, right? So I had no choice but to just, we'd finish our around the world thing, and I was stuck in a chair, and I was like, all right, like it's time to buckle down. Like we had our fun, let's strap in. So I think it was compounded by just a ferocious work ethic for 4 years. 4 hard years.
Overnight success of 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 4 years of suck. I mean, that sucked. I enjoyed every step, but it was a lot of work and a lot of lessons, lessons I continue to learn every day.
Yeah. Well, that kind of dovetails into the question I had in mind is typically with a business, at least I've seen and heard, is that there's usually a catalyst point, or like a point of, like the tipping point where the business just goes to the next level. Was there a moment, or maybe even a problem or an opportunity, such as COVID, or even a decision that was that catalyst for Adapt to see that sort of hockey stick trajectory?
Yeah. It's funny, and you can probably understand this, the plumber often has the worst pipes in their home. Like the guy that's the contractor is the last guy to finish his basement or put the deck. As a marketing firm, I would often give people the advice or the suggest that they niche down, right? I would always say the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
But I wasn't niche down, right? So I started to see this steady flow of business from the real estate capital raising syndication space and the health industries. And I was like, well, maybe I should niche down, right? I should change my branding and just become, that force in that space. So making that decision to go all in on that, adjust our branding, adjust our approach and where we try to procure leads from, dive in as a real estate operator and capital raiser, sort of, and elevate those things. That was that immediate hockey stick growth when I niched down and just became really good at one thing, and milk that cow, so to speak, while I was there. Then that's really helped. And then from there, you develop a reputation where even though you're focused on this niche, I still had this passion for sort of the health spaces, and we've still grabbed those folks. Now we've now expanded into the personal branding, where I feel personal branding is so much more important now than it was 5 years ago, right? Especially with AI and all these other things. People want to connect with human beings and other people. That's another thing we're just sort of bolting, is to something that we're going to, anchor ourselves to. But yeah, man, that was it. It was niching. It was niching down. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a terrifying thought, right?
It is.
let me cut this pie into a smaller slice and just focus on this one little slice. How did you overcome that fear? Like, what was was it something you had to talk through, or you kind of just wired that way where you're like, I can take a risk here and niche down to something much smaller?
Yeah, I just took the risk. Sometimes indecision is a decision. So I decided to make a choice and go all in, burn the boats. And I'd seen enough of it where I'd suggested it to other people and seen the success.
Yeah.
And I think someone even brought it up to me. They're like, why are you not niche down? And I was like, that's
Good question.
Sometimes it's the simplest stuff is right in front of your face. Right.
Yeah.
So, so that was, I've learned in business that making decisions, it's very tiring, right? All you do all day is make just decision after decision after decision. But like if you just overthink, or don't have a good process for it. So it was literally a moment, and I was like, that's it. Called my web dev team. I'm like, change the whole site.
Change everything.
I'm like, we're going all in. And within a matter of a week, it was actually a conference that I was going to, that was where I was speaking. And I was like, I just need to niche. Screw it.
Yeah.
And I'll go in as, hey, I'm the guy that does this. And it worked really well.
Yeah. It's funny. It was after my conversation with you, and I had a few other, little road signs along the way that had said niche down. And you were one of them where we were talking, and I think we were in Phoenix at the time about niching down. And I was just thinking, boy, we need to pull the trigger on this for Skyline Point Capital of really niching down. Cause we, myself and our managing partner, Steve Nabity, both are business owners and had bought and sold businesses and scaled them. So we really serve business owners well, hence building a better business podcast. And we just said, you know what, we can serve anybody. I mean, we can serve physicians, we can serve, executives, high income earners, whatever, but business owners, entrepreneurs are right up our alley because we speak their language. We know their pains. We know their goal. You just got to do it. And so if you go to skylinepointcapital.com, you see it is all business owner centric. That's all it is. And you're right. All of a sudden you're attracting the right people, and you're not having to weed through who's a good fit, who's not, because you know right off the bat, which surprise, you niche down, the right people show up to your front door.
It's such a simple concept. And for everyone listening, probably the best way you can put it into context, I'm sure you would agree, is that people want to hang out with people that are like them. Right. They have the same problems, the same issues. I mean, you're seeing this. I mean, you saw this a lot over the last few years, even with politics and COVID and all those other things. Like you saw that really play out in a divisive way, but in a non-divisive way. When you look at marketing, you want people to arrive at your branding and be like, oh, this dude gets me. He's a business owner. He understands my problems. Yeah, I'm home. Exactly. So that's where the magic happens. And that requires you to niche, and you feel like you're alienating all these people. Like, you want to cast this wide net, you're going to catch more fish. Like, no, you got to go to the right part of the pond and where the fish are hanging out, and then throw your little net in there and you'll get a lot more. Yep.
I want to hear, you had kind of touched up on this already. When we were talking about COVID, my next question is, what's the hardest thing you and your business have had to go through or overcome since you began? And most people answer COVID. COVID was a bummer. COVID really, made me kind of tighten things up, but we've already talked, COVID really helped you. So has there been a moment of where on the opposite side, you've had a real struggle with either growing the business or, trying to get this thing launched or sustained?
Probably the last year has been the biggest test for me, and the hardest, but in a good way, in that in order to transition, when you're an entrepreneur, and I think the business owners and entrepreneurs can understand this, that when you start a business, it's typically just you, right? So you're wearing every single hat, your sales, your operations, your marketing, your everything, right? I was even making the websites when I first started. I was doing the Facebook ads, right? It was all things. And then that's not scalable, right? So you start to understand this concept of scale and how to build a team. But as an entrepreneur, we kind of have, you want it done the right way, do it my way, kind of type of thing, right? And I struggle with that. I had my operations manager called it the pearl clutch. He's like, you're clutching the pearl, bro. He's like, you got to let it go. You got to let other people do that. And so it took me a minute to understand this who, not how mentality, and to really understand the value of, automate, delegate, eliminate everything in your business, right?
Yeah.
So play a true CEO role and step back, let people fail, let people do their own thing, and create the systems and the processes to be able to scale. And in order to do that, I have a creative mind, right? I didn't have as much of an operations mind. I thought I did until I hired somebody that was way better than me at that. And I saw the way their mind worked. So now I can feed off that. But in order for me, I was working, Jake, no joke. Everyone says they work 12-hour days. No, I was working 12-hour days, and they were not insane days. I'd have on average, I was having 8 or 9 Zoom calls a day, right?
It's exhausting.
And then that sucks the life out of you. Then I'd go do my work, right? So it was just life sucking, right? But I was and I was busy. Felt like I was running on a treadmill. We were doing great. We're growing, all this stuff. But I realized if I want to go live this life where I can travel the world nomadically, I want to work about 4 hours a day, right? Yeah. I want to work about 4 hours a day and have balance and all that. This American hustle mindset. I woke up and I was like, this is stupid. This isn't healthy. Yeah. Why does this matter? Yeah. I'm going to die one day. Let's just do something different. So in order to go from that extreme to the other extreme, right? To go from 12-hour workday to a 4-hour workday, what did I have to do? So that last year was the biggest challenge, and what we went through, the transformation we went through as a company and as me as a human being was probably the hardest challenge that I went through. And I mean, I had anxiety at times that I've never felt before. I was so tired. I was nauseous and throwing up. It was ugly. Yeah. Yeah. But it's in those moments that when I would feel those things, I'd be like, I'm right where I need to be. Cause I know I'm at the edge of my ability. Yeah. I'm giving it my all. Right. Yeah. I'm leaving on the field, so to speak. So, but that was, and we can get into what that was, but that process was the most challenging, stumbling over to get from here to here, to cross that chasm was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because especially around the process of you said automating, delegating, and eliminating. That is for business owners most people who listen to this are going to be business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders. That is something they struggle with, myself included. I'd rather just grip the pearl because I can do it better, I can do it faster, I know what's best, and have a difficult time of letting it go. Not only to automate it, but then to delegate to somebody who maybe does it 80% of the level that I do it. How did you work through that process? But then kind of walk through what does that even look like?
Yeah. So it was a couple of things. So first I hired an operations manager. So I had to bring in the right talent as somebody that thinks the right way. And I was I sat him down and I was I want you, this is where I'm going. This is where we are. This is where I want to go. I was I want to hand over every piece of this. And I want you to fix it. I want you to make it better with your mindset, because we can have blinders on, right? As we think our way is the only way. So I had to drop the ego and just surrender that to somebody else. So that was the first step. Hiring the right person and surrendering was difficult because it takes a lot of trust. And it wasn't an immediate surrender. It took weeks, not months, before I got to a level of comfort where, his name's Michael, would make a recommendation. I'd be like, yeah, man, whatever you think. Right. Yeah. You got this. And it's so comforting to get to that point. So personnel, then it came to the appropriate tech stack. So finding the right tech stack that made sense for us to be able to encapsulate that automation, that delegation, that elimination of tasks, and to hold myself and everyone on the team accountable for doing the actions necessary to, create a great client experience. Yeah. And that was something that we were going through a rebrand simultaneously, changing who we were as an agency. And then also we just threw it all in the blender at once. And then also making sure that we became more client-centric and client experience focused. Yeah. So, that tech stack played a major role in it. So those were two big elements. Then the rest of the staff was, finding the appropriate people to fit the appropriate roles with the model as we scaled. And then it came down to, honestly, a big thing for me personally was hiring an assistant and understanding. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that was a life changer for me, is hiring an assistant and then creating a system and process with that assistant to be able to buy back my time. And there's a book called Buy Back My Time by Dan Martell. Great book. I read it, or I listened to it. And it opened my eyes to the power of an executive assistant. And it's been incredible. So that has bought back a lot of my time. And then implementing something that I call the maker and manager time. Are you familiar with that concept?
I've heard it, but explain it for all of us.
Yeah, so I actually originally heard on an Alex Hormozy video. He didn't make it up, but Mosey's great content. Yeah. So as a creator, a creative person, we need time to be creative, and we can't be bothered, right? Yeah. We need that creative inspiration. So but as an entrepreneur, if we see a calendar that's completely empty, we're like, oh my God, what am I doing? You know what I mean? So
panic.
Total panic, right? So we have manager mode, and manager mode in certain roles within the company, they need to do manager related type of tasks. So their calendar should look like bop, 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 bop. Where a creator should be blank, no meetings, right? So when it's maker time, creator time, your calendar is blank. When it's manager time, like right now, I'm booked on your podcast under my manager time. Yeah. And my assistant knows what days of the week that is. It's 3 days a week. It's 3 half days a week. The other half days and Thursdays and Fridays is maker time. So if you look at my schedule, I have 1/5 of the appointments that I used to have when I first started this process a year ago. But I get way more done, Jake, because all the things that someone else can do, they do. But like the deep, meaningful, creative work and company direction, relationships, those things happen where before they were put on the back seat because I was too busy doing other crap. Right. Yeah. So it makes me far more effective. So hiring an assistant in separating that maker and manager time and protecting it. Yeah. And when I have that schedule and I have all those things cooking with the systems, and I got fired from every position. I was a creative director. I was a sales guy. I was all these different positions. I got fired from all of them, thankfully. So now I can just focus on what I got to focus on. But in order to do that, I had to go in to get out. Right. I had to go in, slow down, watch people fail, take my time to show someone how to respond to an email. And I was just like, it was so, I wanted it to just give it to me. I'll do it myself because that's just been how I'm wired. I'm just like, let's go, let's move. And that was an act of patience in me. And it took twice as long. But I will tell you on the other side of it, for everyone's listening, I'm now in Portugal. I work 4 hours a day, if that. And I have such balance in my life where before I did not.
A lot of entrepreneurs have this mindset where they say, well, creating the process, creating the SOP, training that person takes me 4x the amount of time I can just do it myself, which is such a short-sighted perspective because you spend those 4 hours on creating the SOP and the process and training the person, then you've eliminated the job for yourself from that point forward. So it's a heavy front-loaded investment, but after the fact, it's completely
pays dividends.
Open, done.
It pays dividends, and that's what I mean by going in to get out.
My calendar looks very similar. Monday and Thursday are my strategic days. So I think of it like left brain, right brain. I can never remember which is which, but the creative brain needs big chunks of time. Cal Newport has a book called Deep Work, where he talks about like your creative work needs to be in big chunks, like couple hour chunks, where you just sit down, you focus on the one thing. Whereas the strategic, more, manager, as you would put it, can go like every half hour has a new thing. And so I've got days allotted. So we're on a day, this is Tuesday. So this is my strategic day. This is my, let's just get meetings done. Let's get calls done. Let's get them all done. But Thursday, I'm working on projects. I'm working on our next webinar. I'm working on our, brand for our website, but they're in 2, 3 hour, 4 hour chunks.
And no one's bothering you, right?
No one's bothering me. No, because there's like 3 people in the world that can get a hold of me at that moment.
Yep. And then
my wife.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was saying my wife, my partner, Steve, and then my kids, if they need to get a hold of me, that's just about it.
Yeah. And so it's basically the same concept. You just have different names for it. But when you have that creative time and there's that one meeting in the middle of it, it literally ruins the whole thing. It throws you off, and people are like, oh, I can multitask. I'm like, I thought I could. No, you can't.
No one can.
You cannot. right?
Yeah.
And I remember a guy, I forget who it was. It was Dan Martell, actually. I saw one of his YouTube videos. He said, say the alphabet, right? And then, okay, cool, A, B, C. Now count to 27. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now do A1, B2, C3, and see if you can do it at the same rate. You're multitasking, and it's just a demonstration of the fact that you really can't, because it takes time to be undistracted, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so for listeners, the takeaway from this is twofold. One, niche down, just do it. If you've been thinking about it, just do it. You're already a day late on doing it, so do it today. And two, find ways to automate and delegate and eliminate the responsibilities in your business that allow you to step back and not only take a more strategic role, take more of a CEO role, but also really live the lifestyle that you want. As you see Derek sitting in Lisbon, Portugal, still super jealous. All right, let's move on. So we've talked about the past, talked about what worked, what didn't. I want to talk about the future for Adapt. What do you see in the world today that gives you excitement for your business? Is there something that's like, oh man, this is gonna either take us to the next level, or this is a new thing, like AI could be one of the examples? What sort of thing is getting you really excited about Adapt?
So two things. One would be we've adapted as an agency over time from being just like a media agency, a marketing firm, to a lot of people that come that want to create a business and create a marketing plan around it. They're creating that business because they feel that is the answer to their problems, right? They start it typically as a side hustle, and it's going to be the solution to their problem on the place in their life they're trying to get to, right? And this is going to be the way to get it, like whether maybe their capital raising business or their new supplement company or whatever it is. And for those individuals, we found ourselves over time doing a lot of coaching for them, because they need help to figure out what they wanted to be when they grew up. So we created this coaching element. And then on the backside, after we create the marketing plan and handed it to them operationally, they struggle with just creating systems, processes, automate, delegate, eliminate. They needed some help with that. So now we have this operations side of our business. So now people can come into Adapt and go through this full 363 sequence to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, then go build that thing. Then let me help you operationally run it. So instead of being marketing focused, it's just kind of more holistic. So that excites us, because we're evolving into that. It just sort of happened. People asked for it. So we're building a business around it. The other thing you sort of mentioned, which is AI, but in a different way. So what I'm excited about, and why we've sort of hitched our wagon to personal branding, made a decision to do that, is like, I just read somewhere the other day that 58% of the content that's now posted on social media is created by artificial intelligence.
Wow.
It happened that fast, right?
Yeah.
2 years?
Yeah, if that.
And that's crazy. It's also, in a way, it's kind of sad to me, right? It lacks some authenticity. Anyone can be an overnight expert on anything. I can find the answer to anything that exists out there. So I think what you're going to see over time, and this is more of a prediction, and I'm starting to see it already, and maybe you are as well, is as human beings, because we're going to see so much of this AI sort of recirculation, regurgitation of the same stuff, and everyone can create these things overnight, is the pendulum is going to swing. Right. And I feel I'm seeing it already. Where personal branding is becoming more and more important. So people want to follow people. They don't want to follow companies. Right. And personal branding is still not huge. Right. But I think it's in the creator economy, it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, especially like nowadays. I don't need mainstream media or TV to be able to get myself out there. Right. I have all these other platforms to become an instant overnight success. But really formalizing that process of helping someone create their personal brand to go achieve the lifestyle that they want, whether that's hanging out in Portugal and working abroad. Like, what do you want? It's so easy to build a business right now. Information is abundant, ignorance is a choice at this point, right? Because it's so easy to get those things. So being able to help teach people within Adapt how to develop their personal brand so they can go achieve the lifestyle that they want. They can go truly be that version of themselves. Because I think a lot of people create businesses as a means goal, but they don't think about the end goal, Jake. So like, well, why the hell are you doing this? Like, why are you writing this book? Why are you, it's to make money, but why? Right. So you go through the 5 but whys until you get to the actual reason why somebody is doing this. That's what we want to help people with. And I think a lot of it's going to be personal branding, because people are going to want to follow people and less AI driven stuff. Because it comes back to what you said before, where it's like, you are the niche. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And people are going to be attracted to that. You see it a lot in YouTube. You're seeing it in all the social media platforms. I would rather follow Jake than Jake's company, right?
Yeah.
But it's through Jake that I find your company. So it's that pathway that I think you're going to see surface, and we're hitching our wagon on. So that's what I'm most excited about, is helping people get to a point in their life where they're doing it for the right reason. I think that's important.
I think you're onto something there, because I like you, I've seen that sort of pendulum swing, and I know myself when I get on social media, which is very infrequent, except for LinkedIn, I want to see content from people, individuals. I want to see what they've created, not what an algorithm or AI has created. And so I think with you even moving, helping with the personal brand, your customers are gonna be at the tip of the spear, in the sense of, they're right there when the pendulum does swing, because where people who are creating content themselves, they're able to share their experience, which AI cannot do. AI has no experience. AI is collecting information from everywhere. But what you can do with your personal brand is say, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I've experienced. And that is going to be the 5% of content. Hopefully it doesn't get to 95% AI, but 5% of content is going to be your experience, and people are going to be flocking to take it in. I think that's where it's going, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I think we can use AI as a tool. So that excites me, but we got to lean into authenticity, because I think that's what generates and creates the greatest vibrational energy that goes out there to folks, and people can sense it. They can taste it. It's intuitive, and people are going to get sick of the 95% probably what will go to AI generated content that everyone else is doing, versus someone who's just real, raw, and authentic. That's going to be rare, right? Yeah. That's going to be that's the vintage wine that like, I like this guy. I can't figure out why. It's because he's a real human being sitting in a chair. He's not some AI generated, GIF or whatever. So that maybe that's the old school of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. But it's working though, man. I see your personal posts. I see your business posts, and they're usually scroll stoppers. I mean, I'm usually like, oh, okay, hey, this is a good one. This is one of those ones that like it's real, it's authentic, it's an experience. It's not, and I know it's a person creating it. I know it's not AI generated. And so it's working, because again, it makes me stop scrolling every time.
Awesome. Oh, cool.
All right. Last question. Let's do the flip side. What gives you angst? Like what is on the horizon for your business, or the industry of your business, or the industries that you serve, that gives you angst, that keeps you up at night, that worries you, that you're kind of keeping an eye on from a distance?
No, I will say nothing's, at the risk of sounding like, I don't want this to sound pompous by any means, but nothing scares me, because I've made a decision long ago in business to never walk in fear. There will always be competition. There will always be AIs and all these things that will be coming at you, and you can respond when they come at you in 2 ways. I've had we all have, right? These things where you like lose a major customer, or like this new thing. Like when AI came out, I was like, okay, I can react 1 of 2 ways. I can go be scared and cry in the corner that like now all these things we do, you can buy an app and do it, or I can find a way to adapt into it and turn it into a business and all that. So I've worked real hard, I guess, to hone skills to give me a high level of adaptability, to know that if there's a shift or something major in the market that would occur, we'd find a way to turn it into an opportunity, turn something really crappy into a good opportunity. The only thing that gives me pause that I feel like I don't have control over is just like all the geopolitical crap. And I try not to watch it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like China, Russia, blah, blah, all that stuff. So I used to dive into that. And now I found that like, okay, I can't control this. Like, why am I worried about something that may never happen? Yeah. If they start firing missiles, like whatever, I'll just be, hopefully I'm not where they're going. You know what I mean? Right. In Portugal,
in a safe spot.
In a safe spot, but it's but yeah, that's probably the only thing, because that's something that could that would floor every business, and it would just be awful for everybody. So just, not walk in fear. I'm definitely a man of faith is kind of what gives me that confidence and, but yeah, nothing really scares me.
That's good.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, the worst thing you can do is make decisions and live by fear. I mean, you're going to have the worst decisions, the worst outcomes. And it's just much better. It's better to live by faith and to walk by faith, and you feel just so much better about it.
You do. And even if you think about fear, you're worried about stuff that may never happen. And I feel that when you put that energy out there, you're going to get it back. Right. So if I feel that this is going to fail, probably going to fail. Right. I'll find a way to subconsciously screw it up. But if I go with just blind optimism and be like, yeah, I could start that business. Let's go. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And people like my wife just drive her nuts. I'm like, hey, we're going to go do this thing. And I get this new physical challenge that I want to do. I'm like, I'm going to go sign up for this. She's like, you're nuts. She's like, why would you do that? But I'm just just walk in faith, man. Just know you'll figure it out. And so
I love that. All right. I feel like for this last one, I know we all know what the answer is going to be, but I'll ask it anyways in case there's a different answer. But what's your long-term goal for your businesses? Like your real estate investing, Adapt, health industry, travel agency. What's the long-term goal for your businesses, and how does that play into your personal life and goals? Again, you're in Lisbon, so I imagine that's probably the answer is your business fuels your travel, but what else?
Yeah, good question. So long-term there, I would say continue to build businesses that are able to run on their own and provide a family for our staff. So it gives them an opportunity. I've said so many people that work for me that I've just seen their growth, and that makes me smile. The customers on the other side of that, whether it be in real estate or people going on a travel experience, or we build their brand and see their business elevate, serving other people. My goal is to serve more people through my businesses, and then outside of my businesses through other acts of benevolence or philanthropy or whatnot. The businesses are doing well. We're doing great financially. We're traveling the world full time. Things are clicking, blessed, real nice now. So I think the next stage for us is okay, how can we give more and give back? And that's an area that we've been giving a lot of thought. My wife and I talk about nonprofits, setting them up, and all these just new things. And that's where I see ourselves going is getting more of a space of giving at all those levels. Yeah.
I love that. Most people, you're at a point now where you've got everything you want, and some people would just keep grabbing and taking, and you're taking that mindset of, well, I'm going to be others focused. My future, my success of my business and life is all about other people, which I think that's just a better way to live life in general, but especially as you start to succeed in businesses. Hey, now what can we do with this? What kind of impact can we make on people, the community, other people's lives, my employees? That's incredible. That's a great way to think. I love that.
Thank you.
All right, dude. How can people get a hold of you? How can they follow you if they want to follow along on your adventures through Portugal, through the world, and even get a hold of your businesses?
Yeah. So probably the greatest way, just because we have so many different businesses, I created one spot for people to go. So it's just go to Derek Peterson. So DerekPeterson.life. And that's just sort of my personal branding page. You can kind of shoot out to all the different businesses that we have, whether you want to go to travel or media or real estate investing. We even supplement line, we got other stuff in there. Whatever interest you have, you can get in contact with me there as well. So you can send me a note, and then we can start to have a conversation. If you're looking for marketing, just go to adapt.agency. That's our marketing brand. Amy and Derek Travel, just amyandderek.travel. If you want to book a travel thing, and is on social media, you can just find me, probably Instagram. All those links to all that stuff is on that page. So it'd be too long to list them all out. I'm trying to simplify.
We'll link them all too.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Yeah. So there's a few ways to get through. You'll find me in one of those avenues.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing just about Adapt and what you guys are doing. It's an inspiration. It's encouraging. It's convicting as well, which I absolutely love and need that. And I hope that listeners also get that there's nuggets of wisdom here and challenges to move their business forward. But thanks again for joining us on the episode.
Hey man, thanks so much for having me. It's always great to chat with you, brother.
You bet. See you, buddy.
All right. See you.